Hello and welcome to Rule 3's video review for Bound by Flame, a third-person action RPG from Focus Home Interactive. It's glad to be back after a long break and doing this review. So, Bound by Flame is I've never really heard of this game until recently. It kind of flew under the radar, and I didn't know much about this game, other than it was supposed to be kind of like a Dark Souls difficulty-esque kind of game. The game actually is able to deliver on the difficulty, but falls in pretty much every other area for the most part.
That he will be the first to vanquish.
That's more like it. We were starting to be seriously short of fighters worthy of Vulcan! He's your recruit. You can take care of him.
Welcome to the Freeborn Blade. Don't take it so hard. The entry...
The captain deserves his post and his reputation. He is annexed. After such a combat, the knight will need to rest for a moment.
Okay.
So the story of Bound by Flame is you play as a mercenary in this world where these frost lords are taking over the world with their undead armies, known as undead, or deadwalkers. And due to a series of events, you get possessed by a flame demon and are basically, trying to, prevent the world from being completely frozen over and taken over by these ice lords. On the whole, the story is pretty terrible. It doesn't make a whole lot of sense on some of the characteristics they give some of these characters, as well as the voice acting being really, really, really bad 85% of the time. And the fact that this is pretty much a ripoff of Game of Thrones for the most part. Except not as well written. So it doesn't really do anything good with the story, unfortunately. Probably the weakest area of this game. Gameplay is where this game actually shines a little bit. Combat is its best part of it. You have basically two stances. You have what's known as Ranger and Warrior stance. Warrior stance, you have a two-handed weapon, and you're able to, do heavy attacks, a little bit more of an area attack, as well as block and parry and counter that way. The other stance you have is a stealth stance known as Ranger stance, and that's a dual dagger wielding class. You're a little bit faster in attack speed. You don't do quite as much damage, however you can go into a stealth mode and sneak up on your enemies and do kind of like a double damage kind of deal, like most rogues can. And that's really it. It's very simple to switch between the two. You hit a button and you switch between the two. I found the rogue stance to be a little bit better, but that's because I'm more used to playing a little quicker character. Even in Dark Souls, I play a Dex character, so I'm a little bit more used to the faster attack speeds. But Warrior stance did have its, definitely shown out, had its times to shine, and I was constantly switching between the two for different strategic reasons. So strategically, the game's really, really cool. It focuses on, positioning, traps, and making sure everything is, where it needs to be. The other gameplay elements in this are crafting, which is every time you kill an enemy, they might drop some items. You use those items to craft, different items to either upgrade your equipment, which is, it's all right. Basically, all the equipment have roughly 2 slots most of the time. For your weapons, which is your hilt and pummel, which you can add increased damage, increased crit rate, and stuff like that, which works pretty well. My only beef with the crafting system is it doesn't make anything really useful, and it doesn't really tell you why you're supposed to craft certain items other than to upgrade certain things, because you need money to buy things from shops, but you don't really get a whole lot of money, so do you craft to sell those items, but you need those items to make things. It's weird. So it has a weird kind of unexplained what you're supposed to actually do with crafting, but the system itself is actually fairly simple. Other than that, you do have also some magic. So you have some pyro attacks, which work just like any other magic attack. You just, point, click, and fire fireballs, or enchant your sword with fire, which I found to be the most useful. For some extra damage and stuff like that. You also have traps you can set on the ground and lure people to it so they take increased damage. So it's all good. It's, you know, it's weak in other than the gameplay areas, but, you know, it still has some issues other than, you know, combat was probably the best part of it, and the difficulty. It's really hard. So Bound by Flame has, you know, its redeeming points, which is its combat and, you know, strategic systems that it has and uses, but everything else pretty much falls really short of average. So Bound by Flame, I'm giving a rent verdict. Like I said, it's a good game if you just want, you know, to have, you know, kind of another Dark Souls-esque kind of difficulty challenge and a little bit more, you know, strategy-esque RPG. Other than that, you know, don't play it for the story. The story is pretty terrible. And that's it. So next week will be Wolfenstein: The New Order, as well as hopefully Drakengard 3, or Drakengard 3. I can never pronounce that one. For the PS3. So thanks for listening, everybody. It's glad to be back, and hopefully the reviews get better and better as I found more time. Unfortunately, I have graduation this week, so this one's a little bit more rushed. So thanks for watching, everybody, and always remember to trust in the rule of 3.